Rababi. Over 5,000 plus communities. And a custom higher donations. SCC schools. I built a clinic. No one packaging now. What's Shadara and environmentally friendly?
Never compromise on quality. Choose the value Gassam offers you always. Gassam, the nation builder.
You're live on Newsnight. There's no way you run out of things to do during this period of COVID-19 because Vodafone has got you sorted with too much data now, double the data at the same price. So whether you are taking an exciting masterclass or binge watching Netflix series or bringing the party to Zoom, you'll not get too much data for the day and too much bonus for midnight till 4 a.m. That's even more fun and way more than you are paying for. Dial *700# to get 3 GB data for 10 CDs, 8 GB data for 20 CDs, and 20 GB data for 50 CDs bundles. Stay home and stay connected with Vodafone because with too much data, there's almost nothing you cannot do. Ready. Now, for senior high schools with COVID-19 cases, their expectation of a much-awaited vacation for 6 weeks in school, after 6 weeks in school rather, will be delayed. It is a precautionary measure taken by the Ghana Education Service and the Ghana Health Service to avoid students carrying home the virus. Now, Director General of the Ghana Health Service, Dr. Patrick Kumawaje, disclosed information at the Information Ministry's briefing today.
The goal track of the SHS2 are about completing today or tomorrow. The arrangements for discharge are in 3 categories, and there will be a press release on that. The schools that have not reported any case, it means that those students can vacate and go home. The second category will be a school that has had a case, but if in the last 2 weeks there will be no case, they can also advise that they can also vacate and go home. The third group will be any school that has had any positive case in the last 2 weeks. The assessment will be done to identify those who are contacts, and if any of them is in that class, their vacation will be delayed whilst we do an assessment and observation, after which they will be asked to go home. And all parents concerned will be informed as soon as such a thing appears.
Meanwhile, 7 new COVID-19 deaths have been recorded in Greater Accra and Ashanti regions, bringing the national total to 182. Now, 5 males, 2 females died from complications, including anemia, kidney failure, and hypertension.
We added about 7 more deaths after the last update. And we come from many from 5 from Ashanti and 2 from Greater Accra. Majority of them were males, 5 males, 2 females, age between 33 to 60 years of age. About 4 of them do not have any known comorbidity. We are not saying no comorbidity, no known comorbidity. But that's what happened. The rest are anemia with renal, kidney failure, hypertension, and another one with diabetes and hypertension. And these are the ones that are reported deaths. These are not very recent deaths, but these are when we now finish the audit and we able to add them.
But the good news is active cases continue to decline. Dr. Baje says as of July 28th, active cases are 3,223, while 33,096 have recovered so far. Let's bring in the Public Relations Officer for the Education Ministry, Vincent Eko Asafwa, joins us on the telephone line right now. Vincent, so the Go Track schools with cases, positive cases, do we know as of now how long they will have to forgo their vacation before they can finally go home?
Well, Evans, let me say a very good evening to you and to your cherished listeners. To put it simply, as the Director General of the Ghana Education Service said, those who tested positive and they fall within the last 2 weeks prior to the vacation, that is tomorrow, 31st of July 2020, may have to live on campus so that the leadership of the Ghana Health Service and Ghana Education Service will continue to monitor them. Then after, there would be a declaration as to when they are able to go back home. That is, if they have tested negative.
Okay, so does that mean that for any school that has a positive case, no one can go home from that school?
If there is a positive case that never happened within the last 2 weeks, what it means is that they are able to go home. But if there is a positive case that happened within the last 2 weeks, ending tomorrow, 31st of July, it means that when contact tracing are done and the management of the Ghana Health Service and the Ghana Education Service is certain about the number of students who have been affected or who are likely to be affected after the contacts were done, then those students would be allowed to stay on campus, managed or if you like monitored before they would be allowed to go home after the Ghana Health Service and Ghana Education Service is certain.
I assume that there's going to be testing of all these students in a school with positive cases that fall within the period.
Well, I don't think that is for all schools. They are for students who, if you like, were exposed to other students who tested positive. So it is possible that, let me use Opokuware, or let me say St. Hubert as a hypothetical case. If there are 300 Ghost Track students in St. Hubert Seminary, and there is a positive case in St. Hubert Seminary, what it means is that after the contact tracing are done, it is for 50 people, then it is those 50 people, as per the advice of the Ghana Health Service and the Ghana Education Service, who will be allowed to stay on campus. The rest of the 250 may have to go home.
Okay. Now, very quickly, for the other schools that will be going home because there are no positive cases, is it based on, are we doing testing in all schools for us to be certain that because the school hasn't got a positive case, it doesn't mean that people actually don't have it? Is there mass testing for all schools before they go home?
Absolutely not. Mass testing has never been a policy for the Ghana.
But if that's the case, then how do you know that a school can proceed to go home because they don't have positives?
The usual convention of we suspecting that somebody is positive or somebody is showing signs of COVID-19 is going to be used or have been used, because if you show signs of COVID-19, that is when you are isolated, tested, and if you are positive.
What about asymptomatic students then?
Come again.
What about asymptomatic students then?
Well, as we speak, if we have not tested the person, you and I will not be able to ascertain whether the person is positive or not.
I guess that's what I was asking about, whether there's going to be testing.
You and I will never know. So that's what I'm saying, that as for testing, it has never been part of the policies of the Ghana Health Service as far as the reopening of schools are concerned.
Okay. Vincent Kwasafo, I'm grateful that you joined us. Now, security expert at the Kofi Annan Peacekeeping Training Center, Professor Kwesi Ening, has revealed that the young man who pulled a gun at the Babo in the Ashanti region is not a member of the national security. The man whose name has been given as Yahuwa Yakubu, alias Boyo, allegedly accosted the bodyguard for MP for Asawase Muntaka Mubarak at registration center, claiming he is a national security operative. But Professor Ening says that's false. He also condemned the MP planting his bodyguard at the registration center. Listen.
If the remit was just to say, look, provide protection at the risk of your own life to this MP, that MP cannot tell or ought not to have issued this instruction that, look, I've noticed that this police station does not have enough security. Go and perform that duty. No, individual been given in how and under what conditions he must pull out a gun in a public space. And this is not particularly different from the Hawa Kumsin case. In this case, we were lucky enough for those two soldiers, brave enough, to quieten tensions and then probably disarm him. Two, is the locus of a national security operative in electoral registration matters. You see, they are not recognized by law. So my reading and then my checks with national security is that he's not a national security official. I doubt if national security will send anyone with that kind of dressing, that kind of behavior out there.
Professor Kwesi Ening is on the telephone line with me now. Prof, I mean, if he's not I wonder why he hasn't been arrested yet. At least there's no record of that happening. And you see the video, even the military men there, they're entitled and obliged to use force. They didn't. They almost just tried to convince him, as a man claims he's a national security operative. I mean, it almost seems as if people just took it for granted that he is.
Evans, you and I appeared before the Emil Short Commission. And when we appeared before that commission, it was obvious that the terminology national security has become nebulous. Anyone who holds a gutter phone and uses that phrase is elevated over and above all the statutory security forces and institutions that we know in this country. So there are two things here. The behavior of the military officers, professional, calm, cool, well-trained. Probably they've not been given any negotiating or mediation skills, but their training was such that they were able to calm this character. But even more importantly, and this goes to the Ghana Police Service and their investigations into this officer, you can see the way that the police officer behaved. Also very calm, his weapon slung across his chest, the muzzle pointing downwards, and very cool. While this so-called national security operative is prancing all over the place, showing power. That is not the way an operative who has been trained, even when they are in an overt operation, don't go around intimidating, pulling out guns, threatening to shoot. There was something unprofessional about the behavior that makes me wonder the extent of training that this person has got, his orders, where he took it from, and why he behaved that way. Because we've seen this during the Emil Short Commission hearings about this phone operator or phone seller from Circle. I don't know if you remember his name.
I do, yes.
Yes. Who had been given a couple of weeks training and suddenly was at Ayawaso, also prancing around as a national security operative. National security operatives hold a country together in conjunction with the other statutory forces. National security operatives, by virtue of their training, their access to intelligence, are expected to act proactively and normally in a manner that even the public does not know about.
I guess does it confirm what we've heard from the ground, and this has been checked and confirmed by many sources, that this may be another political agent, masquerading as an official of the national security operation?
I think my assessment certainly does point to that fact, that the behavior, the training, the dressing, the here I come mentality, and then the praying mantis attitude points to the fact that this is a political operative.
Prof, I'm grateful that you join us with your thoughts. It's also emerging tonight that the alleged national security operative who pulled the gun at the registration center at Abrabo has been terrorizing residents of the area for some time now. Well, my colleague Erastus Asai-Donko has been learning more about the alleged security operative and joins us on the telephone line. Erastus, you've been interacting with residents of the area. What have they been telling you?
Well, so we've been to Abuabo number 1 and its environs, where he operates more, and residents have been saying that he has been terrorizing them with his national security ID card and the pistol that he wields wherever he goes. People have been giving different accounts of their encounter with him. We can take a listen to some of them.
For Boyo, as I know him, Boyo. Okay, we are in the same community with him. For the past 3 days, what he just did 3 days ago, just some norms that you normally do in our community. Yeah. Since the one power that he was claiming that he is what? A national security operative, removing guns here and there, abusing others, beating others, plotting cases upon others. So for Boyo, that's what I know about him. He's so violent.
Yeah, that guy, the least said about him, because his behavior is very appalling. I quite remember some time ago, there's this radio station that has been putting up that people claim to be that of the MP's radio station that is around the Kumasi, Aswasi newly built markets. He came and he removed his gun. That is, the guy should come down. If not, that he will fire. And the guy came down. He doesn't have any option than to come down. So his behavior in the community is, getting out of hand. 1, 2, he will just bring the gun out. He has been terrorizing the community, and it does not speak well. It does not speak well of the government. So I think the government should do something about his behavior.
For that guy Boyo called Yusuf, he's very disturbing for the community. He's very disturbing because he's doing something like he's arrogant or he's a commando, or I don't think how to describe himself. As for me, we must be everybody to take in charge if the security cannot take in charge on him, because we cannot allow him to manipulate what he wants to do.
Erastus, you also say that he actually shows a national security identification card.
I have not seen it, but his constituency chairman for Aswasi confirms that he has seen it and that he has a national security ID card, and he brought it to the registration center where he pulled the gun that day. And so his constituency chairman, MPP constituency chairman, Mr. Muru, confirms that he's a national security operative.
Do we know if the police yesterday confirmed that they are investigating, but has he been arrested, or do you have any latest on this?
I asked at about 3 p.m. When I spoke with the PRO for police. He told me that per his information, they asked him to report to the regional command, but he doesn't have that information as to whether he has or not, because he's yet to speak with the commander. I called the commander and he says he cannot give me that information, but in due time the PR will issue an official statement on investigations.
Erastus, I'm grateful with that quick update from that part of Ashanti region. Listen, if you're listening to us and you've also had an encounter with this gentleman, I would be grateful to hear from you here on Newsnight. Send me a WhatsApp 0244-340437. A few of your messages. Good evening, Evans. Please tell NDC to build a strong legal team because they are always losing their cases. That is from Papa Ansa in Teshi Nungwa Estates. This one from Kenneth. I think we need proper education on court proceedings. I'm absolutely confused if the court has intentionally or constitutionally misled the NDC lawyers, or it is Chachishika's smartness that has made things complex to understand. This has no name, writer Kofi Ajiman says, the Supreme Court has spoken. As a layman, I have always been uncomfortable with majority and minority Supreme Court rulings. Unanimous decisions by eminent jurists are my favorite. I think today's decision as to my favorite rulings, I am a non-lawyer and doubt very much if 9 justices of the Supreme Court can collude to miscarry justice. This one, Courage in Agonga says, good evening. To be frank, Supreme Court has set a bad precedent concerning birth certificate not to be regarded as nationality of citizens or as Ghanaians. And a final one says, I listened to the conversation between the Deputy Attorney General and Mr. Tamaklo, and I have realized the irregularities in our court system under the MPP regime. Thank you for those comments. Still ahead, NDC flag bearers Rani Make, Professor Nana Jono Pukwajiman defends her decision to join scores of senior NDC members who signed a petition for Muntie Trio to be pardoned.
We did not interfere with the court process. You mean that when someone sins or commits a wrong and the person runs to you, a mother, to intervene and beg, would you push the person into the fire?
And later. Well, King of dancehall Shatawale reigns on Twitter as fans count down to his musical video with global superstar Beyonce, set to be released tomorrow. And George is a Beyonce lover. Oh, George is showing me. What is that, George? This is on Twitter.
This is on Twitter. You know, Disney Plus is actually promoting this whole thing.
Oh, and I can see. Is that Shatawale showed me?
It looks like, but that's a different Shatawale. I mean, in terms of the imagery and everything.
Goodness me, that's a transformation.
Yeah.
This is Disney Plus, right? Yeah. So possibly
that's online streaming of
yes, yes.
So they're actually promoting that it will be coming on tomorrow.
Well, that's big for him. That's pretty big. I mean, Disney Plus.
And you know, he's also coming up with something with Mick Mill as well.
Oh, that's Shatawale Mick Mill. Yes, of course. That's really good for Ghanaian music, actually.
Well, we hope we'll be able to leverage on this too.
I mean, talking about being good for Ghanaian music industry, you have business. What do you have in the headlines?
Well, in business, Finance Minister Kenneth Ofori said to secure Parliament's approval on suspension of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, and Tourism Ministry project more than $100 billion in revenue from the 10-year Beyond the Year initiative. I'll be getting you more details on that one. The business news on Newsnight is brought to you by MTN Business. Welcome to the new world of business. Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all your office essentials. And First National Bank, we are the bank that understands your business. First National Bank, how can we help you?
Many ways there. Where you go feel use your MTN Momo wallet make payment with scan to pay. Where you go use the QR code, or you go feel use the merchant ID or on bank POS terminal. You go feel also transfer money between mobile money wallet and bank account, all on MTN Momo. Enjoy real convenience in all your financial transactions and live life the brighter way with MTN Momo. We are good together. Just Momo it. We're there for you everywhere you go.
We give you nothing but the best. We stay above the rest. More quality, more affordability. Kingdom Books and Stationery. We do. Everybody's going to the one and only shop where customer satisfaction is a guarantee. Kingdom Books and Stationery.
Oh yes, with our 30 days credit facility with no interest charge, free delivery services, and our free consultation on setting up your office, Kingdom Books and Stationery is unmatched in our delivery of quality and affordable office essentials, equipment, and furniture.
Experience world-class customer service in all our branches in Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Cape Coast, and Takoradi.
Call us on 0302-764-101
or visit our website at www.kingdomgh.com.
Kingdom Books and Stationery, your number one-stop shop for all office essentials and stationery. Terms and conditions apply.
Joy 99.7 FM.
Welcome back to Business on Newsnight. Now, Deputy Finance Minister Evans Mensah says Parliament has validated the Finance Minister's decision to suspend the Fiscal Responsibility Act. The Finance Minister, Kenneth Ofori, and officials of the Finance Ministry today met Parliament Finance Committee to justify the decision to suspend the act. Now, the move would allow the Finance Minister to spend beyond the 5% of budget deficit. She tells Joy Business at the meeting after a program today that the suspension act was actually inevitable.
FRA is clear, Section 3A, it states clearly that if the epidemic, a public health epidemic, and clearly you all know that COVID-19 is clearly a public health epidemic. So that alone gives us that footing to come back. But the minister really suspended the FRA on the floor of Parliament. What the law says is that you suspend and then you come to the committee with explanations. And clearly, we all know, that this has to be suspended because of all the things that have been stated in the law. I believe that the committee has taken that in good faith, and we will see it on the floor of Parliament in the report. But clearly, the suspension has been validated by Parliament.
Deputy Finance Minister Bna Osei Asare. Now, the Tourism Ministry is hoping to realize more than $100 billion in revenue from its Beyond the Year initiative spread over 10 years. Now, this has been influenced by the Year of Return initiative, which actually saw the country realizing over $3 billion. Tourism Minister Barbara Otinjesi tells Joy Business they are hopeful of actually realizing even more than that.
Now we are at number 4. We want to overtake oil, cocoa, everything, and become number one. And I believe that if we are able to do it, we are going to impact so many lives.
Maybe this beyond the year of return, you're looking at somewhere around $100 billion.
It's achievable over the 10-year period. It's achievable.
That's quite ambitious.
You have to be ambitious. You need to believe in yourself. You need to believe in the sector that you are leading. And I believe that this sector has so much to offer. We just need the support and the push. And I think that we are on the right track now. And we are going to make a lot of impact.
In a related development, the minister has also justified government decision to ease restrictions on open-air bars and actually keep the pubs closed.
The science, if you are outdoors and you have protected yourself, the possibility of infection is very low. So on the basis of that, we are allowing our bars also to operate, because we know that the brewery industry also survives on the activities of these bars and restaurants. So the longer these businesses are shut, the brewery industry is also suffering, and that is an area where they are also employing quite a number of people. So it's a balancing act. You need to protect the lives, but you also need to protect the livelihood.
Well, there'll be more on this on PM Express Business Edition tonight as we engage the Minister of Tourism and Creative Arts on easing of these restrictions and its impact on the tourism sector at 9 p.m. on PM Express. Now, the projected job losses in the hospitality industry is expected to hit record levels. Now, that's the fear of the Chief Executive of the Ghana Employees Association, Alex Fimpona. This is after more than 6,000 persons have already lost their job. The Chief Executive of the Ghana Employees Association was speaking at the Joy Business Roundtable series here in Accra. In a related development, the National Labour Commission says 48% of persons who have been laid off can be described as unfair. She highlighted these comments at the Joy Business Roundtable discussion on jobs today. Charles Zaiti has the rest of the story.
Have you lost your job due to the coronavirus pandemic? It may interest you to know that your dismissal could be unfair. This and many other job-related issues were discussed at the just-ended Jobs and Salaries Roundtable organized by Joy Business. Deputy Commissioner at the National Labour Commission, Rose Karikari Anand, explained that 48% of terminations are unfair, arguing that notice of termination must be a month or 3 weeks.
In the labour law, there's termination, and then there's unfair termination. Termination which is fair and the one which is not fair. The one which is not fair, in fact, if you look at the cases coming to the National Labour Commission, it constitutes about 48% of cases that we receive from complainants. So how do you come to the next morning and then your boss says that, gives you a letter that you are terminated? Which reason? No reason given.
One major challenge befalling government when it comes to the exact number of job losses in both informal and formal sectors has been the absence of available data. Taking his turn on the Joy Business Jobs and Salaries Roundtable, Deputy Minister for Employment, Bright Rekubobe, assured that data covering job losses related to COVID-19 will be ready in the next 2 weeks.
We need to know the numbers. We need to know the numbers. As you had a paper I gave you, you only have about 7,000, which is woefully inadequate. And that's why I said we are doing a holistic one.
And that will be the formal sector.
Yes, and this is primarily the formal sector.
The roundtable saw discussants push for a possible review of some sections of the Labour Act, which does not serve their purpose in these COVID-19 times. Austin Garmer is a Labour consultant.
When we were writing the Labour law, we got to a place where we have to separate the Labour Department from handling dispute resolution and deposited it in the National Labour Commission. The reason is simple. We're even going to have the Labour Department will have to experience a new shift. Even the name will have to change to possibly be called maybe Bureau of Labour Standards and Statistics.
The Joy Business Jobs and Salaries Roundtable explored ways of working towards sustainable jobs during and after COVID-19.
And that's all for Business on Newsnight.
And this is your election headquarters. The running mate of NDC flag bearer, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman, has been defending her decision to join scores of senior NDC members who signed a petition for the Munti 3 to be pardoned. Now, in 2016, the former Vice Chancellor of the University of Cape Coast joined others asking then President John Mahama to pardon the Munti 3. She was the Education Minister then. But Professor Opoku-Agyeman has come under criticism for her decision since she was named running mate. But speaking on Cape Coast-based Live FM, she justified her action.
The
long and short of everything is that did people take their time to listen to what the people were alleged to have done? Did they hear any rape in what they said? What was their charge in court? Did it include rape? What was the sentence? In all this, no one went to court to discharge them. The court was allowed to do its work. Those of us who took time to listen to what they said, we prevailed on them to go and apologize, and they went to apologize. They continued apologizing until their sentences were handed down. We did not interfere with the court process. If you look at the judicial processes, there's something called clemency. Do you mean that when someone sins or commits a wrong and the person runs to you, a mother, to intervene and beg, would you push the person into the fire? Or when you beg, does it mean that you support what he did? When you have a child and a child goes out and throws stones that breaks the glass of someone's car, I know as a parent, you might have raised your child very well, but it is not always the case that they will stick to what you tell them. You might tell them, don't go to this place or don't do that, but they will go against it. Your child has gone against your words. He's done something wrong. Do you mean that the talks and all you will do to him will be in the public domain? No one heard what we told the three men in private. We said it's all right. Let the law take its course. And the law took its course. They went to jail, and we said to ourselves, we have to go and beg. Our Ghanaians telling us they've not heard this before. The former president could have intervened, but he didn't. He didn't do that. He allowed the due processes to be followed. What do we see today?
Okay. Ifan jono so nche bi ana chama hamo so butu mu akata wondo wanye ndam o mambre ni ye na adwuma pepepepepe kesi ewie enda ye hu ebese.
And that is running mate to NDC flag bearer, Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. Now, former Executive Director of Media Foundation for West Africa, Professor Kwame Kaikari, has criticized government for dishing out radio and television frequencies to its cronies, describing the practice as an affront to freedom of speech. The renowned communications expert, who is incensed by the recent development, alleged that the National Communications Authority has failed in its execution of its mandate because it operates by the dictates of the government. He spoke to Kwesi Parker-Wilson at a workshop organized by the Foundation for Political Parties Communicators on the need to campaign based on issues and not insults.
The allocation of frequency has never been transparent up to today, and we are seeing that today. The NCA's methods, processes of frequency allocation has not changed. Political parties, when they come to office, dish out frequencies to their party members. It's continuing. Their political party, wealthy members of their political party. The NDC did the same. The MPP is doing the same. And that is dangerous for this country and for also freedom of expression. If all of our airwaves are only going to be monopolized by people belonging to political parties, really, where is the media freedom that the Constitution proposes, promotes, and protects? So it comes back to the fear that the two political parties don't seem to be interested in deepening the content of democracy, but seem more interested in perpetuating their rule or in perpetuating their self-interest. And that's not democracy. That is something else I don't know. Some of these anti-democratic things the two political parties are engaged in are not in our interests, do not bring peace, do not bring progress, undermine development, and that we must resist it.
And is there a way NMC and then NCA can team up to resist this action of political parties dishing out frequencies to
the
their
NCA has always been under the thumb of the political party in power by its very nature of the selection or the appointment of the people who are there by the president, by the cabinet, or as the law that sets it up. So the NCA will continue to serve only the party that is in power at the time. So as far as the NCA is concerned, there's nothing we can expect from them in terms of being fair, in terms of being transparent, and in terms of working to deepen true freedom of expression. Forget about that. The NMC's hands are tied. It's weak in so many ways. Any government in power can disregard the NMC and do as it pleases. So we are stuck.
Professor Karikari there. Now, mobile users handle their devices in several ways and in different environments. Now, this can lead to an increased contamination by germs that, of course, can cause health problems. But which groups of users mostly are at risk? A research by the Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology has found women's mobile phones have slightly more germs as compared to their male counterparts. Kwesi Deborah has more.
The study, yet to be published, has found 64% germ load on women's handset. Between January and April 2019, researchers recruited over 50 university students having a mobile device. The study was aimed at investigating the potency of mobile phones in harboring and transmitting disease-causing germs. For the study, data on their mobile phone usage habits were collected by administering questionnaires. The researchers took swab samples from the mobile phone surfaces for laboratory analysis. According to the findings, 98% of the phones had at least one germ present. Staphylococcus, a germ that causes a number of infectious diseases like boils and food poisoning, was isolated from all the phones. Bacteria such as E. coli, which can cause diarrhea, and Salmonella, responsible for foodborne diseases, were isolated from 53% of the phones. Staphylococcus was the most predominant germ from phones carried along to the washroom, whereas E. coli was most prevalent on the surfaces of phones not taken to the washroom, even though E. coli was isolated from the surfaces of phones in both instances. Dr. Kingsley Bedu is lead researcher.
Is that first of all we have more bacteria on the female than the males, but in effect you have about 100,000 difference, but these are only 50 students that were interviewed, and the statistical differences is statistically not significant. That must be said. Even though you observe more, maybe if you swab maybe 200 or 300 or 1,000 mobile phones, maybe you can actually make another thing that stood out was that we actually looked out for three particular organisms. E. coli, for obvious reasons, that it's an indicator of fecal contamination, and then Staphylococcus aureus, also disease-causing bacteria, and also we also looked at Salmonella, which is a food poison.
Reporting for Joy News, Kwesi Deborah.
Well, at least now you know why I stay away from women's phones. Well, let's stay with that subject a while longer as it relates to the genders, man and woman. Investing in a relationship only for your partner to leave you is very painful. Even more painful is when your partner leaves you for your friend. This morning, host of the Super Morning Show, Kudu Yang Singh, opened the phone lines to hear experiences of people who have had broken heart. Surprisingly, all the callers were men.
I've taken care of the lady because she said she was a virgin. Okay, I will wait, we marry. One hot afternoon, I come to the house, the family is there crying, my woman is pregnant and I am not responsible. I even crossed a major street in Tema. I didn't know how I crossed that street. I nearly died.
In the early 2000s in Dansoma, people know me and my girlfriend as the most romantic couple. I'm telling you. And I was paying her fees. I was taking care of even her family members. And one time this girl did something small and I talked about it. He said, oh, let's call it a quit. For 1 year, I wanted to kill myself. I was still crying. And the girl they tell me, say, make we wait after marriage before I go see, she go break. You finish, I tell me, say, Sabi, maybe I be husband, so like I for wait after marriage. Investment will go inside, no be easy. I was at home, I was only drinking and smoking for almost 1 year. I turned like 1 pin. I did that thing, Charlie, your first time. You think that the whole world be that, oh?
A businessman, they sell carpet or mokola. The guy they do. It's like the lady started following the guy.
Charlotte, make I cool your temper with some Shatawale song. Tomorrow, dancehall artist Shatawale is going to be raining on Twitter, and it's been raining on Twitter for most part of the day already. This morning, fans counted down to his musical video with global superstar Beyonce. Now, Beyonce is set to release a Black is King visual album tomorrow, and this film serves as a visual companion to the 2019 album The Lion King The Gift, which featured African stars including Wizkid with the track Brown Skin Girl. But of course, what had most Ghanaians talking was the already soundtrack, that song with Shatawale. Listen to him as he explained his contribution to the album. A bit of music also just to cool your temper if one of those who've broken heart is still lingering on.
The way the song was, it was basically about, a Lion King, so